Okay, happy birthday to everyone, and we are sponsored in our tour through Shas by the Fogel family, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yehuda Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas God, Yosef ben Tziyam ben Yaakov Zev, and for a great shidduch for Chayat Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, by Baruch Ian, Ili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKoyin, and Lefu Shalayma for Liba Bas Anya, by A.B. Spry, for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Bela Shendel Rivka, by Mark Frankel, Lila Nishmas, his father, Yisrael Tzvi ben Chaim Yeshua Falik, and by Berish Gesseman, Lefu Shalayma for Shoshana Bas Adina Chana. Okay, we are holding on the top of Lamites, and we are holding we're holding 7 lines from the top of Lamites Amud Aleph. 7 lines from the top of Lamites Amud Aleph, and if you remember what we said, that the Shirayim, when we apply blood on the Mizbeach, there's blood that has to, I should put this on. Oh, I just turned it off. That's silly of me.
Hello and welcome to the Torah broadcasting system of Kol HaLashon. Please enter password. Hello, Rav Moshe Meir Weiss. To record, press 1. To listen, choose the topic of the shiur that you are about to. You have chosen to record into a current shiurim. Rav Moshe Meir Weiss, Daf Yomi Shiurim. Current Masechta. Enter the number of Daf Lamed Test. You are being transferred to standby. You are now being transferred to broadcast. To end, hang up.
Okay, so as I said, on the altar, on the Mizbeach, certain karbanos, the blood has to be applied 4 times to the corners, like the sin offerings. Others have to be applied 2 times against the wall on 2 diagonal corners, and sometimes only 1 time. Afterwards, the remainder is poured to the base of the Mizbeach. That's called the Shirayim, are poured to the Yesod. Now, we made a statement that if you have a disqualifying thought, and that is when you pour the Shirayim to the base, you think that you're going to eat it after its permitted time, or you're going to eat it outside of its place, that it's disqualified. So asks the Gemara 7 lines from the top. If you have a thought of pigel, a disqualifying thought when you pour the remnants of the blood, does that disqualify? Vatanya, we learned in the Braisa, Yatsu Shirayim Vaktaras Eimarim, we exclude the pouring of the remnant of the blood, or the smoking up of the sacrificial portions, She'ein Ma'akvin Es HaKaparat, since those do not ruin the atonement. You know, there's certain things in a carbon that you have to do for it to atone. You have to sprinkle the blood on the Mizbeach, because the blood is the life blood, you know. But smoking up the sacrificial portions, although it's a mitzvah to put on the Mizbeach the kidneys, the lobe of the liver, the fats, but if you don't do it, it doesn't disqualify. The same thing is true, if you don't pour the remnants of the blood, it doesn't disqualify. And it says clearly, Yatsu Shirayim Vaktaris Eimurim, it excludes the pouring of the remnants of the blood and the smoking up of the sacrificial portions, She'ein Ma'akvin Es HaKaparat, since these don't invalidate the atonement, She'ein Machshava Ma'eles Ben, a thought of chutz zmano or chutz mekaymai to eat it after its time or outside of its place will not make it forbidden. Says the Gemara, no, when we say over here that it is good, a machshava will help, ki tanya hahi b'sholosh matana shebechatas. It's referring to the 3 placements of blood by the chatas. Remember we said that there are 4 protruding corners on the top of the mizbeach. You're supposed to put the blood of the chatas on all 4 corners. Beis Hillel says if you do 1 corner, it's already good. But it's telling you that if you have a machshava of pigel on the other 3 corners, that also will render it pigel. Not the remnant of blood at the base. Not that. Kitan yahi b'sholosh matana shebechatas. Says the Gemara, ihachi, why does it say t'un in your side that the remnants that we're talking about go to the base? L'karen ozlei. Those 3 placements don't go to the base; they go to the other 3 corners. Says the Gemara, Ema. What it means is, and we're really like redefining over here what it means. Ema nit'on in your side. That means that if you caught the blood in 4 clay shares, in 4 vessels, and you put from one vessel 1, and from the other 3 vessels you put on the other 3 corners, each of those remnants of the vessels have to be put to the side. We don't say that you could pour them into the amma, into the irrigation canal. No. Each one of those placements are nit'on in your side. They require you to pour the remnants to the base. Says Gemara, Umachsheves moyeles behem. If here we have a problem. Here we have a problem. And Yaakov did make it. There's a man of his word. Add a Sheva Brachas, and he's making it, right? It's a new definition of what a Panim Chadoshes is. Right? It's a new definition. Yaakov, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
We have a minion here tonight, all because of Rafael. Rafael, you brought the Shechina with us. I mean, we have Shechina even if 1. But when you have 10 people, there's a high concentration of Shechina. So, Rafael, it's wonderful to have you. Wonderful to have you. So, anyway, so says the Gemara, but wait a second. Hold everything. If when you do the non-essential 3 placements, remember, according to Beis Hillel, although you're supposed to put the blood on the 4 corners, if you do 1 corner, it's enough. And what? Let's mute him. If you do 1 corner, it's enough. So if when doing the other 3 corners, and you have let's call a spade, and when Marshall has a machshava of pigel during the other 3 corners, is that going to render it pigel? No. Says the Gemara, o machshava me'elis ben ha'amrit. We said lo sharia. The non-essential 3 placements on the corners are not needed to permit the meat to be eaten. V'loy mefagla, you cannot render when you make those 3 non-essential placements the carbon pigel. V'loy aylo legavoy, and it doesn't disqualify the carbon if you bring that blood inside kisaifan, like if it was the end blood, like the remnants. So you see clearly that you see clearly that it doesn't render it pigel. Ella, says the Gemara, Kitan Yahi Nubshat. Dubshat. Elakitan yahi b'damim apnimim. Itaka was referring to the blood that was poured to the side, to the remnant blood, but it's talking about blood of the rear karbanos that you bring into the Kodesh, into the temple itself. There's rear karbanos, like the Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibah, the bull that you bring if Bezdin makes a wrong decision, the par if the Kohen Gadol makes a mistake, the par of Yom Kippur, and there, that's when, if you have in mind on the remnants, it disqualifies. Says the Gemara, but what's the din if you have in mind with the outer bloods, potter? In such a case, if you have in mind with the outer chattis, it won't require you, if it gets on the garment, to wash the garment. Says the Gemara, if so, then aditoni domim hanishpochim la'ama, it says, but blood that's poured into the irrigation canal, there was a canal that led out of the temple courtyard, and it flowed into the Nachal Kidron, into the valley of Kidron, and they sold that blood for fertilizer. That blood, it says, if it gets onto the big dekun, it doesn't need to be washed out. And that blood doesn't make pigel. Aditani donaman nishpachim la'ama, lift like v'lis nebidida. It should have made a bigger chiddush and made a distinction. When do we say that the blood that's thrown to the yisoid makes pigel? That's b'damim apnimim. That's only the inner blood. Aval b'dan machitzainim, but the outer blood, potter, you're potter. Why does it have to contrast it and say that the only blood that's potter is the dam that pours into the canal, like that would be blood that was caught by a non-kohen or blood that was taken outside of the Azara? Says the Gemara, well, Hamani Reb Nechemya. This is going according to Reb Nechemya. Reb Nechemya says an interesting halacha. He says that blood of even that's poured to the side, if instead, we need a particular scoundrel here. All right, it's been suggested that it was Marshall. If Marshall takes the blood that was supposed to be poured to the base and does it outside, it's chorus. It's an interesting chiddush. Even though the blood that's poured to the base will not invalidate the kapara, but if you do it outside, it will disqualify. Let's see it inside. Who is this going like? Kamani Reb Nechemya da Amar Shiori Adam shekrivam b'chutz chayiv. And therefore, that's why when it says the case which is potter, it doesn't use the example of the of the blood that's thrown to the base, because blood that's thrown to the base, you can't say, we contrast 3 things it is and 3 things it's not. And you can't say the 3 things it's not on the blood that's poured to the base. Because according to Reb Nechemya, blood that's poured to the base, if you do it outside, you are chayiv. You are chayiv kares. So therefore, it uses the example of blood that's put into the canal, because there you're not chayiv, right? So the Gemara says, Hamani Reb Nechemya, that holds the Amar Shiori Adam shekrivam b'chutz chayiv, that the remnant blood that you offer outside is chayiv. And since that's the case, it wouldn't fit in the contrasting comment that for 3 things the remnant blood is potter, because it's not potter outside. You wouldn't be able to say the contrast that in 3 areas it's chayiv and in 3 areas it's potter, because by the blood that's thrown to the side, it's not potter if you do it outside. Now, Ravina explains a little bit different the Mishnah. Ravina Amar, the implication from the Mishnah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol niyeh b'dvaro. Ravina says, when it says minakeren, that we said that in certain cases you don't need to wash the garment with the special detergents in the following cases. So when it says min hakeren, it means min hakeren mamash. It means that blood that rebounds from the horn, it was already applied on the horn, that you don't need to wash. It doesn't mean that the 3 non-essential placements on the horn you don't need to wash. No, it means that if it rebounds from the horn, it was already put, it was already nasis mitzvah, then if it rebounds from the horn, you don't have to wash it. Mina yesaid, here it doesn't mean if it rebounds from the base. Here it means mina yesaid, if that which is ready to be put on the yesaid, that's royally yesaid, that you don't need to wash because that's remnant blood, and remnant blood that gets on the garment you don't need to wash. So mina yesaid, mina royally yesaid. Amalei Rav Achlifa bar Gazel Ravina, ema aidi va'aidi roihu. Maybe it means both, that the blood that is fit to go on the 3 non-essential horns you don't need to wash, and blood that's fit to go on the side you don't need to wash. So the Gemara says, well, it's unnecessary. If even that which is supposed to go on the horns you don't need to wash, then surely what's supposed to go on the base, which is remnants, you don't need to wash. If you say even that which is supposed to go on the horn doesn't need washing, Ella, it's defined different ways. Minakeren, when it says that which is horn, it means minakeren mamish. It means if it was rebounded from the horn, once it was already applied, that doesnn't need washed. Mina yesaid means mina royal yesaid, even before you put it on, but since it's fit for only the remnants, if it gets on your beged, you don't need to wash it. Now we learned very few karbanas. Almost all the karbanas are put on the mizbeach hachitzain, on the altar that's outside in the temple courtyard. That's known as mizbeach hachitzain. It's known as the mizbeach ha'adama. It's known as the mizbeach ha'nechoshes, the copper mizbeach. Then there's a mizbeach inside the kodesh itself, inside the temple itself. That's known as the mizbeach hazav. The mizbeach hazav primarily was used for the ketores, to smoke up incense. But there's very rare karbanas that are brought into the kodesh. They are the par kayin Mashiach, the bull brought if the kain gadol made an error. The bull brought if Bezdin made a mistake, and the majority of Klal Yisrael followed that mistake.
But they don't burn karbonos and mizbeach hazor.
No, we're talking about blood. And 1 second, I didn't finish. And the par and sor of Avodah Zarah, if Bezdin made an erroneous decision about idolatry, and the par and the sor of Yom Kippur. Those are the exceptions. Only those karbanas, the blood is actually brought inside. Now the blood is, on Yom Kippur, the blood is sprayed once above and 7 below in the Kodesh Kodashim, once above and 7 below against the Paraychas, against the curtain that separated the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kodashim. It was applied 4 times on the corners of the golden altar, and then 7 times on the surface of the golden altar. And then the remnants were poured to the outside base of the outside altar. by these karbanis, that was just done inside, even if you miss one application, it's disqualified. And now the Gemara says, how do we know this? Whatever is put on the Mizbeach HaPnimi, im chiser achas mehem, if you're even missing one, it's not good. Now, I should be a mensch over here and welcome in people. So we welcome in Ben Zion Cohn, Irving Fishbaum, Marshall Castle, Eddie Chazan. We welcome in Mo Kushner and Barry Cement, Yitz Fuchs, Menachem Umansky, Ruven Pollack, Mel Zachter, Rabbi Kranz, and a guest. Who's your guest?
His name is Zach Epstein, a friend of the family.
Oh, well, Zach, it's great to have you. Any friend of Rabbi Kranz is a friend of ours.
Welcome back, Cotter.
Yisrael Fisher, Dr. Guy, Saba, Nachman Chapler, Rabbi Kaniel, it's good to have you, Michal, Dr. Block, Yaakov Warman, Shelley Zeitlin, and Yaakov Warman, we thank you for your Mesiris Nefesh, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller, Abe Arbach, Daniel Rosenberg, it's good to have you, Richard Rosenzweig, Naftali Jablin, and my good friend David Helfgott. And here in Shul, we have a minyan with Berish Gesseman and Avram Rezepkowitz and Chaim Kramer, Michal Avram Chavin, and Rafael, first time. There's always a first time. Rafael Hyman, Danny Vogel, Ruvain Shanit, Rebellia Yaffe, and the intrepid Herschel Waldner, who is threatening us that he's not going to be here on Monday.
And Sunday too.
No, Sunday is only a suffix. It's a suffix d'oraisa. Yeah. So anyway, now, Tan Rabbanan. So here the pasuk says the asa, and they did with the par that was brought for a mistake of Sanhedrin, kasher also like they did with the par of the Kohen Mashiach. Now, it doesn't have to say their procedures were exactly the same, but it already delineated the procedure of the par of the Helam Dover Shel Tzibur, the par of when Sanhedrin makes a mistake. Why does it have to say that it's the same as the par Kohen Mashiach? We know that. We know the procedure. Mabal Lamed. So what does it come to teach us? Lichpol ba'azosai, to repeat it. And we know that whenever the Torah repeats something, it's telling us that if you don't do it, it's no good. The limed shimchiser achas mikol hamatanais, that if you're missing even one of the placements, lo asav lo klum, it's not good at all. Now, if you remember, I told you that on the mizbeach against the paroiches, they do it 7 times, and then they do it on the mizbeach hazav on the 4 corners. So the Gemara says, "Ein li elamatan sheva shema akvas b'kol makom." I only know 7 times because 7 times is essential in all places. The Gemara will tell us much later on that this means that when we have to do 7 times by the paraduma, and we have to do 7 times in the purification of the leper, those 7 times are ma'akev. But how do we know matan dalid minayin? How do we know the placement of 4 times on the corners of the golden altar are also miya'akev? Talmud Leimer, it says again, kein yasa. Okay, lapar. So kein yasa, so shall you do, is again a repetition to tell me that the 4 are ma'akev too. Lapar, also as Barry said, that we know that we do this procedure by the power of Yom Kippur. The lapar is not just the power of Dover Shel Tzibur, not just the power of the Kohen Gadol, but also the power of Yom Kippurim. Kasher also, like we do lepar, zeh par Kohen Mashiach. That's what we're talking about, the parsha of par Kohen Mashiach. Hakatas, elu seirei avodas kechavim. That's the goat that's brought if Bezdin makes a mistake and the tzibur does idolatry. But then there are also the Sirei Harigolim, the goats that are brought on Yom Tov, those are the Musafim that are brought on Yom Tov, the Chatas, and the Sirei that were brought on Rosh Chodesh, that's today, it was Rosh Chodesh. Maybe it's teaching us that blood should also be brought inside. Now it's not. Their blood is offered outside on the regular Mizbeach HaChitzon. But maybe Yochel Shani Marbe Af Sirei Harigolim or Sirei Rashi Chodashim, the goats of the festival and the goats of Rosh Chodesh. Tam Loimar, it says Loi. Loi is a miyat. Says the Gemara, but how do you know which ones to include and which ones to exclude? Umara Rabbi says, why do I include the goat of Avodah Zarah and the mistake of the Kohen Mashiach and the mistake of the community because of Sanhedrin, and exclude and exclude the Sar of Yom Tov and the Sar of Rosh Chodesh? Says the Gemara, well, we have inclusionary statements, like it says, Hachatis, which includes sin offerings, and it has a miyat, and excludes some from loy, which is a singular. I include those that are mechaper on the sin that was known, meaning Bezdin Paskin, for example, that a certain fat is permitted, and then they realize that they made a mistake. So we know the sin. Also, they said bowing down to a certain thing is not Avodah Zarah, and they made a mistake. So it's a mitzvah that's known. I exclude the goat of Yom Tov and Rosh Chodesh, she'ein mechaper al averis mitzvah yedua. There, it's talking about what are those korbanos come to atone for? A very specific thing. They come to atone where a person entered into Mikdash or ate kachim and he didn't know he was tamei. Or he knew he was tamei, but he didn't know that it was the area of the Mikdash, or he didn't know it was kachim. So that's a sin that wasn't known. She'ein mechaprin that moitzani elu she'ein mechaprin al averis mitzvahs yedua. Says the Gemara, v'chiper, we're continuing to darshan the pasuk, the kohen shall give atonement, afal pi shaloi samach, even if you didn't lean on the animal. Now you're supposed to lean on the animal with all your might, but it's mechaper even if you didn't do the smich. The smich is not ma'akiv. And then it says v'nislach, and it forgives, afal pi shaloi nasan shirayim, even though you didn't put the remnants to the side of the mizbeach. Says the Gemara, Umar rois lifsol bahazois. Why do you say that we learn out because of the repetition that if you're missing even one application of the blood, it's possible, but ulahachshir, but it is okay b'smicha b'shirayim. It is okay if you didn't lean on the animal or you didn't do the remnants. So the Gemara says simple. Amrit paisel b'hazois shemakvis b'chol makom. By every carbon, there's certain blood application that disqualifies. Like, at least you have to do at least one blood placement. But I will say it's okay with the smicha v'shirayim, she'emakvis b'chol makom. It doesn't disqualify in all places. In other words, even by other karbanos, the shirayim, throwing the blood to the base, or doing the smicha is not ma'akiv. So now the Gemara just clarifies. You'll forgive me if I go a drop ahead, but the Gemara just clarifies. Amamar.
Rabbi Yitzhak Fuse is waiting to get in.
He's in. He's in. He likes to listen to me twice, you know.
When I couldn't get back in on the Zoom, I went straight to color washing.
Okay, listen, this way you... Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, Marshall, have Rachmanis. Have Rachmanis. Amar, we made a reference, Eili Elamat and Sheva, it's only by the placement of the blood 7 times against the curtain that separates the Kodesh and Kodesh Kodashim. That's going to be Ma'akiv Shema'akfais B'kol Mokum, because 7 always invalidates. So the Gemara says, where else? Heicha, where else does 7 invalidate? Amar Papa B'paro B'negam. You got to pull out your knowledge over here, right? We know that by the Paraduma, the red cow, there's always been red cow sightings. But you see, the red cow, it is the reason why we can't go on the Temple Mountain now. You see, we are all tummy. It's a fact that we can't help, even though we go to the mikveh, but we're all tummy. The reason why is anybody that ever came in contact with a mace, or was under the same roof as a mace, or came within Daled Amos of a grave, we're tummy. To be cleansed from tumas mace, you need to have the water with the ashes of the paraduma sprinkled on you in the 3rd and the 7th day. That's called the mechatas. We don't have the mechatas today. So we're all tummy. Still we go to the mikveh. It gives us a little bit more purity. There's also the idea that when we go into the water and come out unclothed, it's a feeling like we're coming fresh out of the womb. And it's like a feeling of rebirth. But we're all tummy. Maybe not rebellion, I don't know. But everybody else, we're all tummy. We're all tummy. So in the process of the paraduma, they first shech the paraduma, and then the paraduma's procedure was done on Har HaZeisim, in a special pit where they burn it on Har HaZeisim. And they sprinkle the blood 7 times towards the Beis HaMikdash. Those 7 times have to be done. And so also in the gun, in the purification of the tzaras, so in the purification of the Mitzayra, on the 8th day, they take some of the oil, there was a light shemen, and some of the oil was sprayed 7 times towards the Kodesh Kodashim. And this again was essential. So those are the 7 times that we're referring to. Okay, Rabbi Say, wonderful. I don't know, and I don't think Jack can help us, Yaakov can help us. Is Daf still tonight, 9 o'clock, on Motzei Shabbos?
I don't think, hold on.
Or is it 8:45?
Quarter to 9.
It's,
Noyach.
yeah, 8:45.
8:45, Rabbi say. We broke the 9 o'clock barrier.